Sairam, dear friends, today our session, or rather our topic, is on food and the importance of spirituality in food and all disciplines connected to food. Myself, Sister Geeta, and Sister Girija will take you through some aspects of spirituality which are essential for us humans to know that the purity of food is very essential for our spiritual evolvement. Sister Girija?
Sairam, everyone. So today, both of us will take you all on a lighter note. In a different perspective, we will go through chapter 26 of the Geeta Vahini. So in between, all are welcome to put in your inputs and your comments as well. Sairam.
Krishna, you say that the Daivic or divine and Asuric or demonic natures of man are the consequences of acts and feelings that had impact on the individual in previous births. Since it is impossible to escape from such impacts, what is the fate of those who are condemned to carry with them this burden? Are there any means by which this can be avoided, or can their consequences be mitigated? If such exist, please tell me those, for I could save myself thereby. Arjuna asked thus in order to draw out from the Lord the remedy for all mankind.
Oh, my dear Kaunteya, listen. There are 3 types of gunas: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. They are based on the antakarana, which is your inner consciousness. Well, that too is dependent on the food that you take. You are what you feed on. Your activities shape your nature. So, at least in this birth, by regulating food and activity, food is what we call as ahara, and activity is what we call as vihara. Man can overcome the asuric. Brother Billy, my screen, I can't see the bottom portion.
Okay, tendencies.
Okay, 1 second.
Man can overcome the asuric tendencies that tend to prevail upon him.
Okay.
He can promote sattvic tendencies to...
Asuric, yes. Man can overcome the asuric tendencies that tend to prevail upon him. He can promote sattvic tendencies through planned self-effort. Well, Arjuna, now you see, food is the chief formative force. The soiled mind dulls the brilliance of moral excellence. The divine cannot be reflected in the wicked or vicious mind. Food makes man strong in body. The body is intimately connected with the mind. Strength of your mind depends upon strength of the body too. So moral conduct, good habits, spiritual effort, all these depend upon the quality of the food. Well, disease, mental weakness, spiritual slackness, all are produced by faulty food. We will leave it at that.
Krishna, pray tell me the constituents of sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic food.
Arjuna, my Kaunteya, food to be sattvic should be capable of strengthening the mind as well as the body. It should not be too salty, too hot, too bitter, too sweet, or too sour. It should not be taken while steaming hot. Food which fans the flames of thirst should be avoided. The general principle is that there should be a limit, a restraint. Well, food cooked in water should not be used the next day. It becomes harmful. Even fried articles should be consumed before they develop unpleasant odors. Rajasic food is the opposite of sattvic. This is too salty, too sweet, too hot, too sour, and too odorous. Such food excites and intoxicates.
మాంసభక్షణ చేపలు ఇలాంటివంతా ఏమాత్రం తినకూడదు.
Meat eating fish, they should be abandoned, dropped immediately.
కానీ ఈ ఫారినర్స్ అందరికి కూడా ఇది చాలా అభ్యాసం.
But foreigners are used to this non-vegetarian.
దానివల్ల ఎక్కువ క్యాన్సర్ ఇవన్నీ రావడానికి అదే కారణం.
This non-vegetarian food is responsible for so many ailments like cancer.
కనుక దానిని మీరు పూర్తి మానండి.
So discontinue this non-vegetarian habit.
ఇంతే కాదు,
Not only this,
ఈ మిగడ అనుకుంటున్నారు మిగడ చీజ్.
then other point, cheese.
ఆ చీజ్ అంటే చాలా ఇష్టం మేడం.
Oh, you like cheese very much.
ఆ చీజ్ ఎంత పోతుంటుందో అంత మీకు చాలా బలహీనం అయిపోతుంటుంది.
The more and more cheese you consume, you eat, more weak you will be.
కనుక దానిపైన మీరు పోకండి.
So, don't run after cheese any longer.
మిల్క్ కూడా ఎక్కువగా తీసుకోకూడదు.
Don't take too much of milk.
టూ మచ్ మిల్క్ ఏంటంటే టూ మచ్ మిల్క్ చాలా చెడ్డది.
Too much of milk is also bad.
మనం లిమిట్గా ఉండాలా.
Everything should be under limits.
మిల్క్ ఎంతనో నీరు అందిపోయాలి.
You should mix, proper combination should be 50-50, milk and water.
కర్డ్ కూడా అంతే.
So,
Sairam, question is, we know you say food cook, don't take it next day. But nowadays, modern day, we have fridge. So overlap food, I'll put in the fridge, next day we warm it up, cook it up. It doesn't look that bad. So what is your opinion?
Yeah, good question. Okay, for anyone like to answer that?
I think most of us do that, right?
Yeah, I think maybe when Swami give the directive at that time,
On cooking and also to prevent wastage if there's extra food in the food cooked for the day is just left over. So I feel that we try to minimize carrying forward food. See, sometimes food lasts 2-3 days, whether it is fried or in curry form. Just from personal experience I'm saying. So we minimize on that. That's the best way that we can do to minimize the Rajasic and Tamasic effects of food on us. Saida.
Sairam, the other question said, cheese we know, Swami say make our body weak. India, I think he said, eat whatever in moderate. That means Swami also said eat cheese is good, but cheese I think of calcium or a certain protein, right? I'm not very sure. But should be okay, right? In moderate. Of course, I know the Westerner, whole day I can eat a lot of cheese. That too much will be not so good, lah. So what's your opinion about the amount of cheese that you eat? Is it okay to eat in moderate?
I think Swami mentioned that cheese is more or less tamasic food, not so much of moderation. I think the type of food is being referred to with reference to quality of mind. So it's the contributory, the mind is not so good now. So it's not moderate or extreme, but I think just telling us
I think it depends on the age. Youngsters can eat a little, but when you get old, you should avoid. And food kept in the fridge, you have to keep it out. You mustn't heat it immediately and eat, Swami says. You must keep it out for some time, then heat it in a low flame and eat. You mustn't overheat it. Then it becomes poison. It's better to avoid eating food that kept in the fridge. That's what Swami says. Better. But you have to keep it outside for sometimes and then heat it in a slow fire and eat. And any food that you cook, you should eat within 1.5 hours. Then only you will get the full value of the food. That is good. Cook and eat when it's warm itself. Not leave it for 4 or 5 hours and eat. Saira.
Can I say something? Sairam?
Sairam, sure.
Yeah. You see, regarding the stale food, farmers in India, I don't know whether other Indonesian and all that, but farmers and even some of our own people, overnight rice, they soak in water, and next morning they take that rice with the water with a little bit of maybe some chili or whatever it is. And it's supposed to contain very high amount of B12. It is definitely more than 4 hours. The sister said the gap between to where they gets rotten is 4 hours. So I don't know what Swami would have to say for the farmers in India taking that that rice which is cooked rice soaked previous day.
That is definitely good. That is definitely good. Because it kept outside.
So, when whatever Swami says, yes, it is applicable. At the same time, I think we need to use, as other sister and brother has said, we need to use our senses as to how long to keep it. If it is really, most often the ladies, they find a lot of leftover food, they wouldn't like to waste it. They will heat the food the next day. I think it's okay if you take it and heat it again. Heat it means really on the stove where if the liquid has to boil, something like that. Not just throw it into the micro oven or the oven and eat it. So that rice part of it, I know is very healthy, of B12. I wouldn't know what Swami would have to say on that statement for that. Sairam, thank you.
Thank you, sister. Okay.
Saram, I think can we say that as long as the food are in good condition, like you put in the fridge, let's say you warm well cook, as long as it is still good condition, I think should be quite okay. All right, rather than waste it away. Saram.
Or maybe in certain places where the temperature is hot, it's very warm, so the food get what they call spoiled very fast, especially those cooked with water. But nowadays, they are refrigerator. And I understand in Puttapati they got a very deep freezer to freeze the food.
The other question is, I think not mentioned here, right? Swami mentioned that one of the most poisonous food is sugar. So I think he's referring to the white sugar. Am I correct or not? Then how about brown sugar? Are there any difference? Does anybody have knowledge about this?
Palm sugar is okay, brother. Not the brown sugar which they sell in the supermarkets. Not really sugar, it's just the same white
palm
sugar goes through.
Palm sugar is like Malacca sugar, right? Right?
Yes. Gula Malacca. Gula Malacca is okay. Jaggery is okay. It's okay. Though it is sweet, it's not harmful because white sugar is processed sugar. See? So, and even cheese. If you say talking about cheese, even paneer is cheese. Homemade cheese. So, I don't know how many of you eat paneer, but paneer is okay. High in protein, high in calcium, high in minerals, elements. I don't know, but regarding palm sugar, yes, it is Gula Malacca.
Yeah, I think what sister says is true that Swami say white sugar is not good because it's processed using the kind of bone charcoal, which is can cause cancer. That's why Swami say don't take white sugar because it's been processed. Okay. All right. Shall we proceed?
No, but one thing is that whatever processed food is not good. A lot of ailments come from processed food. So quite a number of diseases in the GIT is because of processed food. So it is best to take natural food. But more importantly, I think the trick of the game is this: if we continue to spiritualize ourselves and increase our own individual frequency, we will become sensitive to what food we should eat. And we have a self-regulatory system that when we see a food item, that certain thing, we ourselves don't want to take it up, or we ourselves reduce the amount of consumption and things like that. There will be a self-regulatory system that will help you to avoid certain food or not give you an inclination for that. So, but if we do not aspire for that, and then you'll find that we'll just try to justify by eating certain food. So the whole idea is, if we keep increasing our meditation, our spiritual aspirations, and so on, automatically the feeling for especially non-vegetarian food will also diminish, and the kind of food also, in the sattvic nature of the food also will be taken, and also the timing of the food. For example, after 2 days you take the food, you can feel it that something is not so right, and you feel that you don't want to do it. You see? It's your own frequency of your system that should finally regulate what is right and what is wrong. It is an innate system that will take it on. So, but general ruling for food, because it is the most important thing for spiritual, and also most important thing for thinking, because food influences your thinking capacity, and food influences also the moods. You know why? Because food, the neurotransmitter in the gut is connected to the neurotransmitter in the brain. So whatever food you consume, metabolic and physiological and all the other systems that in the body is connected to the brain. So how you think influences the digestive ability. What food you take also influences the head. So the axis is very clear. So we have to pay reverence and respect the kind of food we are consuming also, and the amount of food also, and the timing of the food which is consumed. All these have to be very regulated in our system now. I mean, that's the bottom line of this whole conversation on food.
Brother Isaac has put up his hand. Can you unmute yourself, Brother Isaac?
Yes, Sairam.
Brother Isaac, where are you from? Which country are you from?
I wanted to say something about the processed sugar, but I think the brother who just finished commenting made mention of it.
Oh, sure.
Because I remember reading Sathya Sai speaks on food. So I came across something like that. Swami said something about bone char. That is has the content of animal bone. I think bone powder in processed sugar. So I think someone was saying white sugar is okay. So I just wanted to make a comment on that. Then again, I didn't quite hear clearly what one of our sisters said about food in the refrigerator, because I mean, here that's what we do. So I just want to know what is the health implication, because sometimes we keep our food. What we do, we can cook over the weekend and refrigerate the food for another 1 week, which I think is not good. But I think I will want to get more insight on this. Jay Sairam.
Thank you, Brother Isaac.
I think the brother brought one very good point. During the COVID time, the period, there's something very popular in the market selling. Packed cooked vegetarian food, deep freeze. So it was very popular. Even till today, it's still popular, There are these people who are very good at cooking vegetarian. They pack it, put in the deep freezer, and then you buy, and then you put in the deep freezer. So after 1 week or 2 weeks, you want to eat, you just warm it up. But the food is as fresh, So I think it's the condition how you keep it to maintain the goodness of the food there.
The cooked food is bad, as brother has said, cooked food. But supposing you buy a lot of, say, herbs, coriander or celery and all that, you can put it in the deep freeze uncooked, and sometimes it can even last for 2 to 3 months, even more than that, and use it for cooking. But as brother said also, the deep freeze in COVID time we did keep. I think COVID time is the time we actually could cook every meal, breakfast, lunch and dinner, because we are inside. The other times we're busy, go to work. So I don't know. Uncooked food is okay in the freezer. Freezer. I'm talking about the freezer, not the refrigerator on top. But if you buy, say, yogurt, we do keep it and eat it. We don't eat the whole thing for one meal. Maybe when Swami said, brother, can I ask if all this thing about food is taken, how many years ago Swami's literature, this one came up for? This particular thing about food. When you took it, which year was it?
Yeah,
How many years ago?
He was
Long
saying.
time ago?
I think must be some time only.
Yeah,
In the 1960s?
Possibly.
Yeah. 1960s, 70s was still, not really developed. So people did eat brown sugar, palm sugar. They never even had an opportunity to take white sugar, and
But
all
you
this
were
processed tin stuff,
yeah.
all that. Those days, in those early days when Swami gave, this one is very old statement which Swami has made. I don't know whether of late, after in his 90s, he has ever made mention of this kind of food that you got to eat. See?
He was
Again, those days we
okay
used
for
to make
all.
also. No, those days we used to also make pickles. Pickles you can keep out. Those days also they used to keep the pickles outside. But the preservative is most important. And that's why we use a lot of oil for pickles to preserve it. Especially.
But we don't eat much pickle.
Nah, we don't eat much, yeah. But pickles you do get in Puttaparthi even in the canteen.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think the clip that is just shown to us, I think is quite not that old, not that new either. But then the translator is Professor Anil, so probably it must be in the 90s where he brought up the this one about cheese and the non-veg food.
So
And probably Swami spoke generally because he referred to people maybe they don't have fish and all that, because he didn't mention that. I suppose he presumed that. Like last time I used to sell fish and freezer. There are instructions given there. The fish, how many months can you keep? The meat, how much can you keep? How long can you keep? Because it's scientifically proven when the chest freezer we sell, right? There are specification given. This food can keep for how long? That food can keep for how long? I don't know how many of you know that, but this is common when we sell freezer and all that, There are specifications we have to follow.
Any food that fresh is good. Stale means that the food value is not there.
Okay, shall we move on? The next.
Okay, shall continue?
Yes.
Lord Krishna, excuse me if I appear impertinent. I ask with a desire to know, that is all. By mere change in food habits, Can character be changed from one guna to another? Or has something more to be done to supplement the purification process? Tell me if there is anything more.
Ah, my dear brother-in-law, you've come back. If transformation of character were so easy, wickedness and vice, so characteristic of the Danava or the demonic nature, could have been wiped off the surface of the earth in a trice. Of course, there are some things more to be done. Okay, we finished the dialogues here. All this was taken from Geeta Vahini, chapter 26. Now I leave it to Sister Geeta to continue from this 3 points onwards.
Okay. There are three purities to be observed: purity of the provisions, purity of the vessels in which food is prepared, and purity of the persons who serve the prepared food. Next slide, please. It is not enough if the provisions are pure and of good quality. They should have been procured by fair means. So the earnings that have been used to purchase the ingredients as well as the vessels should be from just means. So any comments on this? So it says no unfair, unjust, untrue earnings should be used for one's maintenance. These are foul at the very source. The source as well as the cause and the goal must all be equally pure. Any comments from any of you?
Sister, just one comment, Sister Saram. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, can.
All right. It's not enough if the provisions are pure and of good quality. They should have been procured by fair means. I would take it that if the food is stolen, it will have ill effect on the body. Anyone eating such a food unconsciously will have certain behavioral problems thereafter. And there was a very good story about this, which we used to narrate quite often, and I think all of you are familiar. This is about a sage. He was walking through the forest, and he passed a very poor house, poor family. So the lady in the house, when she saw this sage coming there, she was very excited. So she welcomed him into her house, made him sit down to take a rest, and she wanted him, more or less, to be there so that the entire house becomes vibrated positively. Meanwhile, she had to do something for cooking. So she went over to the shop to get some things, and they were all beyond her means. And what she did was, she took something from there without the knowledge of the shopkeeper, brought it to the house cooked, and she gave it to the sage to eat. The sage enjoyed the meal, thanked her, and unconsciously took that silver cup and put it into his bag, and he walked away. During his walk, he suddenly realized that that silver cup doesn't belong to him. And how did it come into the bag? It must have been his own conduct. He thought like that. But he was not happy at all until he reached his guru and explained to his guru of his plight. So the guru asked what happened to him the whole day, and as he narrated, he said that he had some food in this house of a good lady, and the guru said that the food he took was not pure, as a result of which his behavior changed thereafter, no matter how hard, how well he behaved prior to that. Therefore, if you take food which is not received by fair means, it might affect the body system unconsciously. So that is one thing. The other thing is, I remember this is another story, not a story, but truth. When my daughter was born in a London hospital, and as we got discharged, we were sent to the children's ward. And the children's ward, there was a matron who sat down to advise us on how to bring up the child. And she said, just do one thing. Do not feed her with sugar and salt. Any food which has sugar and salt will have a negative effect in the long run. Then she says, the food you take has got adequate salt and adequate sugar, the fresh food, and that should be enough for her metabolism to work on, for the body's needs. That was advice. But over a period of time, when we start visiting our mothers and uncles and aunties and cousins and everybody, that rule could not be maintained. Therefore, how do we correct this? So we must follow the teachings of Buddha. Be a moderate. You can take, but be a moderate, and in moderate quantity, so that it will help your body system to function well and be in the best equilibrium position. Of course, that must go with exercise and how you conduct yourself for a divine way of living. Taram, sister.
Thank you for your views. It is very enlightening indeed. Now, in connection with what you mentioned regarding the person who served the sadhu the food, she had that habit of maybe stealing something from somewhere. So here it says here, the person who serves must not only be clean in dress, but clean in habits, character, and conduct. He should be free from hate, anger, worry, and indifference while serving the dishes. He should be cheerful and fresh, and he must be humble and full of love. See, these are all vibrations that go into the food that's being served. So when all these positive vibrations go into the food that's being served, the receiver will also get those vibrations. So while attending on those who are dining, he should not allow his mind to dwell on wicked or vicious ideas. So that also adds on to the importance of positive vibrations even while serving food. Next slide, please. Mere physical cleanliness or charm is no compensation for evil thoughts and habits. The sadhaka who has to secure concentration has to be careful about these restrictions. Any further comments on this from any of you, my friends?
Saram, sister. I think if I read it correctly, Swami did mention about this food because people who supply the dish, whether it's clean or not, we do not know. The person who cook, whether in good behavior or not, whether got anger or not, we do not know, right? So that's where I think Swami said the food prayer is very, very important to purify everything. Can probably somebody clarify this point? Sarah.
Yes, the food prayer is there. Of course, it also depends on how much of concentration we put on the food prayer while we chant. Full concentration and full, what shall I say, our own vibration should be a positive 100% while we chant the food. I think that will help to counter the negative vibrations that have already entered the food that's been served to us. Any other further comments?
Yes, sister. There is one story where Swami said there was an Indian officer who went to a foreign country and then he sat down for a dinner. And this particular person, this particular devotee, Swami's devotee, knew this food mantra. So when the food was served, he uttered this mantra, thinking of Swami, and not only that, in his mind, he had a handful of it feeding Swami. He was so attached to Swami that he would not touch anything unless it first has been taken or tasted by Swami. And that is a visualization process which he has been living with during his lifetime. And then he took his food and he came. And when he went to Puttapati, Swami told him exactly what happened in the place where he took the food. He said that food was actually poisoned. And because he recited the food mantra, he was able to negate the ill effect of the poison on his body. So it is important that the food mantra be always recited before taking food. Sairam, sister.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Brother Rama. We will proceed. Otherwise, during Dhyanam, the subtle influences of the wicked thoughts of the cook and the servers will haunt the sadhaka. Care should be taken to have only virtuous individuals around. How to charm professional excellence, reduce wages. These should not be allowed to prejudice you in favor of dangerous cooks and attendants. Examine carefully their habits and their character. Food you eat is such an important constituent of the physical and mental stuff with which you have to struggle in the spiritual field. Any other further viewpoints from any of you?
Just one more point, sister. As a result of this beautiful, directions given in this part of the program, the moral which we gather is this: to safeguard yourself, the best would be to cook your own food, and you try and adjust to what are the ingredients you should add and the type of food you like to cook. You ought to manage, and if you progress in life, that will help you a great deal for a healthy living, healthy style. But that's not possible because of our working life and conditions like this. But one thing is very clear from Swami, that it is very important that wherever you eat, that you first utter the food mantra, and then you can do what you wish to bring about a relationship between you and Swami at the time when you're eating. And Swami also said one more thing. When you are eating in a restaurant, just like how you are enjoying the food as a result of the food mantra, where you have converted the food you are eating into prasadam, and it becomes spiritualized food, and you are in good health. Don't forget, all the other people who are sitting there also need the same blessing. So how do you bless them? You recite the Samasta Loka mantra so that they're all blessed, and you also feel happy about it. It's happiness we are looking for. Sairam, sister.
Sairam. Thank you, Brother Rama. We'll proceed to the next slide.
Shall I share two experience?
Can.
Yeah. One day, my wife and I went for lunch. There was no place, so we went to a vegetarian restaurant to eat. We did the food mantra. The comfort of the restaurant was quite okay, but when we ate the food, even with the food mantra, we feel so uncomfortable. Later, I did pass by the kitchen, and I saw so much heat, so much shouting, so much rajasic activities there, So, I mean, we didn't enjoy the food. We did eat some because we were hungry, But I think even without the food mantra, we are even worse. I think with the food mantra, we are more conscious and more control, I mean, try to eat the minimum, We didn't know the situation in the kitchen was so bad, That even we eat the food, we felt terrible. Side up.
Yeah, that's why your example refers to this very paragraph. Dangerous cooks and attendants.
No, this is again the point that was mentioned earlier, that our own system, if it is upgraded, our sensitivity will go to a higher levels in which we ourselves, there is an innate system that tells you what to eat, what not to eat, how to regulate and all that. Because you see, like our James's experience is that you went and then you saw all that, because it's an innate wisdom that you have inside here that regulates, So you just have it inside you when you go, oh, this food I want to avoid, or that one So when you start becoming instinctively intuitive to understand what your system is telling you, that will itself tell us how much to do, where to avoid, what to take, So we should go in that mode. I think then you will have a natural way of eating food.
Yeah, especially those of us who are always having to eat out and also to order food. We have to be particularly vigilant. And of course, as Brother Brother
Okay.
Rama and Brother James have just said, chanting of the food mantra is very, very important. Of course, even if we
Yes.
cook our own food, we do that as well. Yes?
Okay, Sairam, I wanted to ask, when Brother Raman said, chanting of the food mantra and then the peace mantra, so that, we can also, send out this positive energy to the people around us at that moment. So I don't know if he's chanting it loud or chanting it mentally, because societies differs. In some society, if you do that, people will misinterpret you in as much as you want to, chant peace mantra. So that's on one side. Maybe after he will, expatiate on that. Then I'm also looking at, food. I think there's something Swami said about food. We are saying food. There are other aspects that we should also be looking at. Apart from the food that goes into the mouth, the food that also passes through the eyes, the ears, the environment, the associations we keep. So I think that other aspect is very critical. In as much as we get subtle influences from the food we put through our mouth. I think if we can also regulate the things we watch. Like I was telling somebody that I hardly watch TV, and I'm sure there are other good programs that one can also watch. So if one must also watch these things, look at things that are very positive. I think Swami said something like that also. Look at things that are very educative, things that can, make positive impact in our lives. That's another aspect I'm trying to let us look at. Jai Sairam.
Thank you, brother. In
Sister,
fact, Swami is also...
Sairam, sister.
Yeah, Sairam.
To answer the question of Brother Isaac, when you are in a place, in a restaurant, and reciting the food mantra, of course you say silently in your mind, because Swami is.
Hello.
Yes. So, sister, the whole thing is you got to recite the mantra silently. You don't have to shout, or you don't have to say it loudly. Silently, it's only in your heart, in your ears can listen, and that is enough to cause vibration throughout. That's one thing. The other thing is when you're praying for everybody down there, you recite. Swami says recite his prayer called Samasta Loka Suhino Bhavantu. That's enough. That's enough to put the waves correct, bringing the correct waves to go against the negative waves for everybody to be at peace and happy.
I think somebody must switch off.
Sister Geeta, is it? Background noise. Okay, let me see.
Children.
Of course, Swami did mention about Satvik, Rajasic, Tamasic, listening and seeing. He did. It encompasses all besides food. It's food in any form, which we, of course, what we see, what we hear, and what we see and what we hear, and also what we feel also is food. But this is the physical food which we put into our mouth. We're just focusing on this for this time, at this moment. We will proceed to that later.
Sairam, Swami, yes, Annam Brahma. Food is Brahma. So while eating, you mustn't talk a lot. You mustn't talk at all. You have to respect the food and enjoy the food. Then it will digest properly. And while eating, you mustn't drink plenty of water. In between meals, you have to drink water. And you must have 5 hours gap between each meal. You must have 5 hours, not always eating. 5 hours gap between each meal. And in between, you can eat fruit or you can drink a lot of water. Not with the meal, not too much water. Sairam.
Thank you, sister. Next slide, please. We'll proceed. Purity of the mind can be and has to be supplemented by the purity of the body as well as purity in its important function, speech. So the three levels, mind, body, and speech, physical, mental, and vocal tapas should be observed in order for us to have to get to where the inner light is radiated. If there's deficiency in either one, the inner light will not be able to radiate. So this is our example here. Then you see the light, as shown here, the picture of the tongue, the mind, and the body. The mind is the oil, the body is the container, and the tongue is the flame. So if either one does not work in the proper frequency, then the Atmic Jyoti will not radiate. So any comment on this from any of you? That is where Brother James, the meditation aspect comes in.
I think Swami talks about the three important spiritual disciplines here. Number one is the physical discipline, number two is the mental discipline, and number three is the vocal discipline. So Swami said that we must always try to keep our mind free from worry and anxiety, hatred, greed, it should always be saturated with love for all beings. It has to dwell in God. It has to be restrained from pursuing objective pleasures. No lower thoughts should be allowed to creep in, and all thoughts must be directed to the elevation of the individual to higher planes. And this is the tapas of the mind. I think this is where the intake of food, not only the physical food, like what Brother Isaac mentioned,
That's right.
what we see is also food, and what we hear is also food. Yeah. So I think this has got relationship with food as well. So if we want to discipline the mind, one way is to be very careful with the food. The food through the mouth, the food through the eyes, the food through the ear.
Sairam, I think Geeta brought out the point of the meditation, which is a lot of people might not know that because meditation is like you do not follow thoughts. You are not affected by the thoughts. So mentally, you are very calm and very strong. So that is a very powerful practice. In the end, that's why Swami say, whether good or bad, you are not supposed to be affected in equanimity. And that is one of the early good sign of a meditator. That's why you see all the guru, the master, normally they are very calm. And they are not affected by the environment or the situations and all that. So that is the higher level. Sairam.
Sairam, Brother James and Brother Billy, thank you. Next slide, please. Physical tapas, breath control exercises, service activities, all these is physical tapas, which will help us to elevate ourselves spiritually to the physical plane. The service of the sick and the distressed, observance of moral codes, all these benefit the person who's using physical tapas to evolve spiritually. So it also involves singing of the Lord's glories and visiting holy places, even looking at pictures of saints and sages and knowing about their lives is also part of physical tapas. Any comments from any of you regarding physical tapas besides all these that have already been outlined here?
Sadam sister, probably one more we can add to physical tapas, which also many of us do not know. When you do meditation regularly, your body will automatically normalize and recharge if there is a need. Automatic. It's natural process, although you don't ask for it. If you do the right type of meditation, this thing will come by. Of course, we still need to exercise to keep our body physically fit. That is also important. But on the subtle side, the meditation also has this effect. That's why people say meditator hardly fall sick, because it actually it normalizes the body system. And not only that, during the meditation level at the time, the blood become alkaline. It's just like you eat vegetarian food, so you have less sickness. That also add on to the physical tapas also.
Okay, thank you, Brother James. Any other viewpoints?
Sairam, very good. And also walk.
Sairam?
Any
Sairam, sister? Rajesh?
Walking is the best exercise. Like swimming and walking is the best exercise. And meditation and Soham meditation. Breathing exercise very good for the lungs and for the whole body. It's very good. If you walk also, you're breathing well. Or if you're not walking, you sit and do the Soham meditation. It's also good. Breathing is very important. How you breathe and we exhale and inhale is very good. It's also sort of food for the body. Saira.
Sister, thank you. Next slide, please. Vocal tapas. Okay. Avoiding talking bad, false statements, scandal, mongering, backbiting, telling lies, and speaking harshly. Avoid all this. That is vocal tapas. And it involves, of course, it includes speaking sweetly and softly, and always thinking of the divine when we speak to anybody, whether the person we speak to is a person whom we can get along with or the person whom we can't get along with. So we should speak with care whenever we deal with anyone. So that is vocal tapas. Of these three, physical tapas, mental tapas, and vocal tapas, even if one is absent, atmic effulgence cannot radiate light. As I said earlier, it's just like the lamp, the wick, and the oil, right? So as you can see the example there, we have to be extra vigilant for all three aspects of ourselves: physical, mental, and the vocal. Any comments on this from anyone?
Sister, yeah. The truth is we need this inner strength, to be able to apply these things or to put these things in practice. And this inner strength comes from regular practice. When I say regular practice, I'm talking about the sadhanas. It can be in any form. Like Brother James rightly mentioned, our sister also mentioned about Soham meditation. I love meditation a lot, but I also think that there are other aspects too that, each and every one of us, we may not really have, that strong inclination towards meditation and do it with pinpointed attention. Japa, doing the using your rosary to recite especially the Gayatri. Swami says, you can forget to chant any other mantra, but never you forget to chant your Gayatri. So, like Brother James rightly mentioned, how the meditation can transcend the mind. I strongly believe in that. Like if over time when we practice these sadhanas, from within, you have fortitude, you have self-control, you regulate your words, you will be more yes. You'll be more careful about the things you say. But if we want to go by, okay, I can practice it, to Swami say, okay, we should talk softly and sweetly, it might not really be possible. And I think that's the essence of the whole thing, why we're talking about food, why we should regulate our food, eat more of sattvic food, see more of sattvic things and do more of sattvic things. Sairam, this is just a little contribution I have on that aspect.
Thank you, Brother Isaac. Any other viewpoints from anyone else?
Saram sister, maybe one more point can add. When we were young, we used to take a lot of motivation course, positive, and leadership course. At that time, we didn't know about Swami. At that time, I didn't know about Swami, okay? I was a meditator at that time, okay? Because meditation doesn't talk much about this. So being young, you take all this leadership, positive thinking and all that. Then later on, as we grow older, then we come to know Swami teaching and all that. We found that, positive thinking, very good, but there is also a weakness, Because everything I can, you become like a bit of ego, And then you exaggerate, Cannot also say can, But higher than positive thinking, to me, I feel like positive thinking we need. Higher than that, actually, is love. So we need positive thinking with love. That is the most powerful. Not only positive thinking. I know of someone who was a trainer in positive thinking. When this person came to our center, we faced a lot of problems. We speak one level, she's speaking another level. Then, if I just cannot, it doesn't coordinate with, doesn't go along with what Swami teaches. Because we are talking about the love flow rather than just positive thinking. And positive thinking also can lead us to do a lot of wrong things also. This is just sharing from my experience, Saram.
Thank you, Brother James. Let's continue. Next slide, please. This is a very interesting clip that I just saw this afternoon, and I just I just sent it to Brother Billy, and he has included it. Let's listen.
What did you do just now, Aryan? I just did the food prayer. Wow, this is a special day for me. My brother is becoming so religious. Hey, come on. You know me better than that. You do many right things without knowing the reason. But everything that I do it after knowing the reasons. Okay, so what is the reason for your prayer? The filters that you had referred to consider before things go into your mouth? You found them out yourself? Yup. Patra Shuddhi, Padartha Shuddhi, Paka Shuddhi. Correct! 100 out of 100. Padartha Shuddhi is to ensure the purity of the ingredients that go into the food. And Patra Shuddhi is to ensure cleanliness of the vessels. And Paka Shuddhi is to ensure the cleanliness of the cook and the cooking process. Too good, Aryan. Too good. But tell me, Gautam, where does prayer come into all of this? Where does prayer come into all this? I pray out of gratitude to God. I'll tell you. In fact, I think you can answer it yourself. See, you don't like to eat bananas, and yet you love to eat the temple prasad, which is made of those very same bananas. Why? I don't know. Maybe I think that vibration or vibes in the temple that makes anything that we eat as prasad very tasty. Absolutely. And it is not just about a temple. Any place that has positive vibes and energies will have that effect because there is a vibrational aspect to life. Means? See, Gautam, you think of yourself as a piece of matter which is 75 kilograms. 80 kilograms now. You put on weight? Okay, 80 kilograms. But do you know that you are just not a piece of matter? You are a wave as well. Meaning you are also vibrating. Does science also say this? Absolutely. Just go online or revisit your higher secondary school days and look for the dual nature of matter. Everything in nature is a wave as well as a particle. There is a vibrational aspect to life. You need not do it right now. But then, interestingly, I also got to know that there is something called the string theory. A theory on strings. What is that? And it's cutting edge of theoretical physics. And it states that the fundamental building blocks of the universe are not these atoms, electrons, protons, all these particles. It states that they are vibrating strings. That too in multiple dimensions. Early morning lecture on science. Very nice. Very, very nice. Not that way. My point is, there is a vibrational aspect to the universe that we possibly do not comprehend completely, but we cannot deny it. That I agree now. So, when you say Padartha Shuddhi, it is not just the physical cleanliness of the vegetables, fruits or cereals. We have to consider even the thoughts and feelings of the farmer who grew them, or the retailer who sold them, or the fertilizer manufacturer who made the fertilizers that helped growing the food. All of these. Oh, I see. And in the same way, the thoughts and feelings of the person who cooks. Now I am not worried about that because I know it is you and you have the most wonderful thoughts and feelings. But even those thoughts will have an effect on us. We have to ensure Shuddhi or cleanliness even there. Oh God, that means I think it is better that we eat all meals in temple only. No. Better is to bring the temple home, charge the food with positive vibrations and make food into prasad. That is why the food prayer. Now I understand. Okay. So from now on, let us together chant Brahmarpanam. Nah. I don't chant Brahmarpanam. Then, you remember our Balvikas days, Gautam? Harir Data, Harir Bhokta. It is a shorter food prayer that gets over quicker. Aryan is always practical.
Okay. So, this is one interesting clip that I saw. I thought it will be informative for all of us. Any comments, viewpoints from any of you regarding this?
Salam sister, I didn't get the meaning, the last few sentences, the ending part.
Oh, you mean the food prayer, is it?
You're talking prayer, not even food prayer. I didn't understand about that.
There are two types, one is, we learned it in the SSC class, Balbika's class, is a shorter one, Harir Data. The other one is the Brahmarpanam and Aham Vaishvanaro, which is in the Bhagavad Gita. Those are two types of, the shorter one, of course, is the one that we learn in Balbikas because it is easier to remember. Brother James?
So that means we do the normal food prayer.
Yes, you can do both or either one. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
Sister Girija, what do you say?
Yes, brother. This prayer, Harir Dhata, Harir Bhokta, Harir Annam Prajapade, Harir Viprasharirastu, Bhunkte Bhojayade Hari. It's a smaller version. We used to teach our group 1s and group 2s those days. But now Brahmarpanam has taken over generally. It's the same meaning. Hari is the one who gives, Hari is the one who cooks. Same like Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavihi. So it's the same meaning, brother. So in what brother Arvind was trying to say, that you don't have to go to the temple and consume the food and chant the prayer there, but bring the temple and the Lord within you and chant the prayer in the house. In the heart.
One more question. I think in the Gayatri is also mentioned that chanting Gayatri for food is also okay. What's your opinion?
I know that even Gayatri can be chanted. I have heard about this some years back. If you can't remember any of the food, any prayer before you eat, you can chant the Gayatri.
For me, we use Gayatri in the house, so I wanted to say something like that.
I see. Yeah.
And you also said it depends on how our concentration when we're chanting the food prayer. So I think it depends on which side your concentration swings more to. For me, it's the universal Gayatri.
Gayatri, yes. Some people do that. They chant the Gayatri during before taking food. Okay, over to you, Sister Girija.
Oh, okay. Okay, Sai Ram. I think one of the slides that went in the beginning, where Swami says, what was it? Swami says, you are what you feed on. Your activities shape your nature. So at least in this birth, Swami says, by regulating food and our activity, we can overcome our demonic tendencies that tend to prevail. So he said, promote more sattvic tendencies through our planned effort. What we understand from this is that there is no shortcut here. It is a straightforward path to reduce and ultimately stop our rajasic and tamasic, or the lower actions. We have to concentrate and improve on our sattvic activities and the intake of sattvic food. So food intake has to be really mindful here. When we can give excuses for many things according to the conveniences. So food intake has to be mindful, and when we consistently practice on having a discipline, the resultant actions that we perform will be more and more sattvic. It is a what we call as, it's a round effect, a cyclic effect. Then when we continuously and with effort consistently steadfastly hold on to a discipline, a strict discipline, then we will only do more and more sattvic actions. And even the thoughts, the mind will tend tell you to have a certain type of sattvic food. So this will be the way to what we call as liberation in the end. So all the three gunas are equally important at our growing stage. There was one story, I can't remember from where I read it. There was an example that was given some time ago about how do you relate this, the food intake, when sister mentioned about how the food intake affects the sacrifices, the penances we do, the tapas we do, and even the charity that we do. So it is the food that influence our nature and also creates the thoughts in us. So there was this, what I wanted to share was, there was an example of a scientist. So so how each of these, the sacrifices, the penances, and also the charity that one does, how it can accommodate into one single person having a difficult job. So this was a scientist, and his profession and his livelihood was always done in good dharma, and he was so dedicated to his work. He loved his work. So the Swami said the example was that was his yajna, that was his sacrifice for his job, complete dedication to a job. So he was a scientist. So, and by loving the job that you do, he conserves energy, and so that in turn helps him to perform well in his job. So in the meantime, in that kind of a life, he may have given up, certain attending certain family functions, because he was so occupied with his work, and because he's doing some important scientific job in his lab or overnight or whatever, that he was kept busy. He gave up many of his own family functions. So this becomes the tapas that he does. So the sacrifice from his part while doing the same job. So enjoying job and putting in dharma was his sacrifice, while sacrificing the family functions together with the family, that was his penance. And out of whatever that the income that he brings home, he definitely used to give for a good cause, the charity, a worthy charity. So this was the dhanam, the charity that he does. So on top of that, how do you maintain food? He had very little simple needs for food to maintain good health, and to, you know, to take care of his health and his job. He has to eat well and not you know indulge in many of these activities. So this is a all-round effect for the sacrifices, the penance, and the charity that one person can do. It's a round effect, you see. This is what I wanted to share with you all. And now Swami's quote here, it says, man has the ability to learn new things and to change himself. Unlike animals, he is endowed with infinite capacity for learning and can transform himself into a better person. He can sublimate and refine his instincts and give up his vicious habits. He can achieve anything by his own effort. This is the effort that Bhagwan says that we have to put in to do more and more sattvic activity. So actually, Bhagwan's words here, these are to open our mind, you know, our inner eye, what they call that, antakarana. Watch what we feed ourselves, because as brother said earlier, you know, food makes us, and it is the food that creates the thoughts in us. So by slowly changing our food habits, we are in fact laying the foundation for improving our own character and personality. And this in turn, you see, this is the cycle that is there. So not not only our inner nature is built by the food we eat, but actually in turn the cyclic effect, you know, it is this inner nature that is produced by the food that commands us what to eat next. See, it is the mind that tells us the next food to eat. So the urge comes from within, and that urge is also created by the food that we eat, isn't it? So this is the cyclic effect. Actually, these verses teach us that, you know, when our thoughts change, the preference for food also changes. And we all know from our own examples that food that at one time, you know, that gave us so much joy, you don't like it now because that habit has changed. So this is the effect of food, and how I don't know which guru said that man is food rearranged. So this is what is makes the person. It is ahara and vihara. Ahara is the food, and vihara is the activities that we do. I think that's all from me. Sairam, thank you.
Sairam, sister. Very nicely done. Very nicely said. Food rearranged.
Actually, there's a last part to this chapter 26, you know.
Okay.
This was the part where Swami himself, surprisingly, he now addressed, I think first time he addressed whoever reads this Geeta Vahini as dear reader. You know, so there's something
Do you
here.
want me to read further?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay. Dear reader, this is the heart of the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. The body and life in it are based on food, and they are sustained by food, anna. So food decides the level of attainment, high or low. Nowadays, emphasis is being laid on discipline and regulated behavior. That is nishta. Nishta means discipline. And without reference to the nashta. Na ashta, that is food. However great and learned a person may be, however much he pays attention to the teachings of the Vedanta and takes care to spread them, if he neglects the strict code laid down for the food that is the very basis of the body and its functions, he cannot succeed. The purity of the provisions of the cook and of those who serve what has been prepared, these are not attended to. They feel content when, Brother Billy, in my screen, I can't see it. So
Okay,
can you please continue?
Yeah, they feel content when their stomachs are filled, when hunger is appeased.
The first temple they visit when dawn breaks is the restaurant where idli and sambar are offered to the Atmarama. How can such gourmets get concentration? Purity in cooking, purity in provisions, and purity of service. How can these be guaranteed in restaurants? Who pays attention to these? Without doing this, people complain aloud that they do not get success in concentration and suffer greater confusion. The effect will be secured only when the proper causes function well. When bitter things are cooked, how can the final dish be sweet? Ahara and Vihara, food and recreation, are both very carefully regulated in the Gita, but little heed is paid to its teaching, nor is it considered so essential. There are people everywhere who swear by the Gita, who expound it for hours together and who preach about it, but very few put its teachings into practice. The verses fill their heads, but they are powerless to meet the reverses with philosophical cheer. Ananda and Shanti can be secured only when food and recreation are cleansed and purified. Darkness and light cannot coexist. Kama, god of lust, and Rama cannot be in the same place together. They are like fire and water. How can one escape an evil reaction if the Gita is held in one hand and hot coffee or tea, or a lighted cigarette or beedi, or a pinch of snuff is held in the other? Some even justify their unregulated lives by declaring, Brother Billy, can you continue?
Okay, some even justify their unregulated lives by declaring that whatever is eaten, however eaten, wherever eaten, the stuff is rendered pure and acceptable on account of the raging fire of jnana which they have in them.
How can a bitter fruit be transformed into a sweet one when it is dipped in a series of holy rivers? How can persons who simply speak on the Gita get saturated with the sweetness of its message? What really happens is that those who listen to such hypocrisies lose even the little faith they have in our scriptures and become hardened disbelievers. How can a person who feels helpless to restrict and regulate his food habits be trusted to restrict and regulate his senses? If he cannot limit and control his feeding, how can he limit and control the senses? Can the nose, which falls down at a cough, survive a sneeze? How can one who is too weak to climb stairs climb to heaven's heights? When a man is a helpless victim of coffee or cigarettes or snuff, how can he muster strength and courage to overcome the more powerful foes, anger, lust, and greed? When he cannot renounce dirt, how can he renounce desire, become master of the tongue, and then you can master sex? They are firmly interconnected, as close as the eyes and the feet.
Yeah, so I think this is the end of the. Okay, so over to you, Dr. Suresh.
Okay, Sairam, it's another 5 minutes more. Very nicely, this is a very important thing as well. But Swami said one thing, more important than the guru is the guri. So sometimes, like for example, if a person wants to get an Olympic medal or a Commonwealth Games, then his life will be different from the normal person. His diet will be different, exercise will be different, lifestyle will be different, and his regular exercise, active, aggressive exercises will be different because his aim is to get the gold medal. So the guri regulates and controls the mind. The mind then starts filtering and doing things that is conducive to achieve the goal. You see, that's how to align our system in accordance. Otherwise, we will be bothered with too many different things, and then we'll be getting lost trying to put a self-imposed discipline. The excitement of the goal is what that really pulls a spiritual person to a higher state of consciousness. So in this bracket, if we ourselves say we are going to live, okay, how are we to live? What is it that we are supposed to achieve? But Baba said, of all the animal kingdom can only be an animal kingdom. It can be only animal. But human beings are the only beings on earth that has the ability to attain the Atma. So our purpose in life, all the rest are just incidental purposes. Family life, working life, everything else is incidental. That's all part and parcel. But the real purpose of why we have come is to attain the Supreme. Baba said in the Sathya Sai Vahini, the first line of Sathya Sai Vahini reads, the process of living must finally attain the Supreme. And by Supreme, it means Atma. That is the first line itself denotes the summary, essence and summary of life. Eating is a process in this whole state of maintaining our livelihood, our existence here. Food is just a means, not the end. It's just a means, a process. So just as how we pay attention to the final goal of our life, that much attention we must spend in the way in which we consume. So way to regulate is, suppose you have a big, huge buffet spread and there are 25 varieties of food. Doesn't necessarily mean that everything has to be consumed. But when we see that food, we must ask, is this necessary? Okay, is this okay? We taste it. Like one of the best examples to see tasting of food, which is very delightful experience, is to see Swami eating the food. You know, he's the way of eating, everybody will be around him, and then they'll put all the plates there. He just nibbles a certain thing, put in his mouth. Put here, nibble it now. Put there, take a little bit from there, take a bit here. He tastes everything and just throw it into his mouth like that. I mean, it's a very, very amazing art which Swami does, which means he's tasting the food, he's having the food, but in moderate quantity and little bit. So if there is a systematic regulation. That's why the saying goes, if you take food as medicine, later in life, you will not take medicine as food. So the whole idea is to have a self-imposing regulation on the way we consume, because it is helping us to gear ourselves for the ultimate experience. And that is what we for so many years, we are spending our time in these satsangs. We should aspire for that. So at lunchtime when you're going, you see, most of the time you're just sitting down, you're not exerting. So is it so necessary we should eat such a big, large plate of rice? Is it so necessary that we must consume so? Like that, the system must come regulating. It's not necessary because we don't need to consume so much. So then the consumption becomes less and lesser, and more quality type of food with less amount. I think that kind of regulation comes in. There's a certain element of discipline that comes into our system that enables our mind to be very sharp and alert and awake. Once these three things comes, like alert, awake, and once it is like that, then there is the ability to contemplate on what is being said, the ability to be discriminative, to know what is real. So the life becomes extremely beautiful and wonderful. I think that's how we should all aspire for, the way where Swami is helping us to regulate, so that the meditation experience is what Brother James always says, that becomes more enhanced. The deeper experience, that becomes deeper and deeper. Sleep becomes better and better. You see, everything is related. And then the timing of, by after 7, we should stop eating. The circadian rhythm, there's a rhythm in our body called circadian rhythm. And we must eat everything and finish our inner stomach kitchen should close at 7 p.m. then no more until next morning. So that kind of spiritual discipline must be there, because what you want is a higher state of consciousness must start bubbling inside. A deeper sense of intuition must start now coming within. An inner gyroscope of wisdom must start flourishing. There is a scope, there is something that is pulling towards, like that system must come inside. Then when we read the scriptures, it becomes very exciting to dive inside. There is an extra aspiration to want to do his mission. There is a bounce of energy that comes inside. There is a dexterity coming into every element. We want Swami's thing. We want that kind of living makes life very, very exciting. In every moment of our life is a prasadam itself. Not the food is prasadam. Every moment in life is a prasadam, where everything becomes an intrinsic and wonderful experience where we can make Bhagavan our eternal companion. So with these few words, we like to thank all of you for coming. Hopefully you can tell others to come and join us next week. We'll continue the satsang for the other groups. We thank Sister Geeta and Sister Girija for illuminating us with the subject on food. Until we meet next week, Sai Ram.